And at this time, the meeting is live. I would like to call this meeting to order. It's 9:01. Just like to say welcome to the public. Welcome to the Baltimore City Senate Delegation bill hearing. At this time, we will be hearing 3 bills today, and we will also be voting on 3 bills that we heard from last week. It looks like we have full attendance. So first, I would like to recognize all of my colleagues before we get started. I'm going to start in numerical order of respective legislative districts. I would like to recognize Senator Antonio Hayes is with us. Senator Jill Carter is also with us. Senator Murray Washington from the 43rd Legislative District is with us. Charles Sidnor is with us, and Senator Bill Ferguson is with us. I'm going to jump right into bill hearings, and because I see our Senate President, and I'll just let everyone know the bill hearing order is going to be Senate Bill 426, followed by Senate Bill 472, and last heard Senate Bill 525. Mr. President, I know that you have some words regarding your bill, so if you would like to get started.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the delegation. Pleasure to be here with you as always on this beautiful and freezing Friday morning. We have our annual exciting 46 district liquor bill that has yet again more changes of little things here and there. So I'll walk through kind of the ones that are in the bill, and just so that folks know, we will have an amendment because of course there are additional things that have come up. So the first one has to do with Old Line Distillery. This is in the Highlandtown neighborhood. It is a distillery and has a class 7 distillery license, which does not have the ability to have a 7-day under the current regulations and rules. And so they have a tasting section of the distillery on the outside, an outside patio. Neighborhood associations are all fully supportive of Old Line. They are a great community partner. And so this would take their 6-day D and turn it into a 7-day D, and it is just a distillery, which is a very important distinction. This is not restaurants in which we do not convert 6 to 7 generally. The next one has to do with Di Pasquale's, who is moving to a new location, and so this will allow them to move into many people know the Broom Factory. And this is, again, Di Pasquale's is a very strong community partner. They do lots of great work. They're an incredible Baltimore institution. And so this would allow them to have a license at their new location. There are 2 additional amendments that are coming that I'll just explain now. They should be here by next week. We just wanted to make sure we had the community association sign off on all of them. One has to do with the new development in Canton across the street from Canton Crossing, in which there is going to be a new dog park social club, of course, right? And so it is a model of something that's in DC. And so it will allow for beer and wine at a dog park that will be constructed. And then the final one is the extension of a sunset that I am not entirely sure why the sunset ever existed, but it did. And so this will be the erasure of a sunset on one particular license. So those are the 4 changes in the 46th district. Hopefully no more beyond that, and would move the bill for the appropriate voting time at the appropriate time next week.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, if it's okay, I would like to recognize Nicholas Blendy. I know that he serves in a new role as the liquor board. I just like to ask the question, Mr. Blendy, if you have any comments that you would like to add to Senate Bill 426, and you don't have to if you don't want to.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'm here because my board has asked me to be here as an informational resource on all these bills. We don't actually have a position on any of them. I'm just here to answer questions.
Thank you. At this moment, I'd just like to ask my colleagues, are there any questions of the senators on Senate Bill 426? Seeing no questions, this ends the bill hearing for Senate Bill 426. I would like to move on to Senate Bill 472.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Good to see all of you this morning. I'm pleased to testify and ask for your support of Senate Bill 472. It's about districts and legislative redistricting references. Look, 472 is a really simple bill. It's less about alcohol policy and more about something we all understand, redistricting. As you know, we redraw our legislative districts after every census. But after the 2012 maps were drawn, for example, we never really got around to updating the maps. And so this bill does just that. It simply makes a correction so that Baltimore City alcohol beverage districts refer to the legislative redistricting plan 2021 rather than the corresponding plans of 2002. One note for my colleagues, this bill does have a drafting error for which I have a technical amendment, which you should all have. Apparently, in our excitement to update the code with references that the bill as drafted inadvertently updated a section that deals with the old 47th district back when it used to be in South and Southwest Baltimore City. So I'm sure our colleague, Senator Augustine, can tell you that he does not live in Baltimore City. So this section of the bill needs to be stricken to fix this unintended error and to make this a local bill. With that, I urge the committee to adopt the technical amendment and issue a favorable report. And also might add, to just inform the body and the public, I'm now serving on the alcohol subcommittee of Education, Health, and Environment, and look forward to working with all of you on alcohol policy in Maryland and specifically in Baltimore.
Thank you, Senator Washington. I'd now like to offer up, once again, I know you're here for informational purposes, but just want to check, Mr. Blendy, is there anything that you would like to add?
Nope. Happy to answer the question about that weird section or be quiet if no one has any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And now at this moment, I would like to ask my colleagues if there are any questions from any of the senators. Perfect. Seeing no further questions on Senate Bill 472. I would like to end the bill hearing on Senate Bill 472. And at this moment, I would like to go to Senate Bill 525. Senator Carter, did you have any questions? Okay.
No, Mr. Chair. I think my unmute came off by mistake. Thanks.
No problem at all. In reference to, at this moment, I'd like to move to Senate Bill 525. This is my bill, but I'm also going to be joined by a couple panelists. I have with me Mr. Marvin. I also am joined by Kaylin Young from the ACLU. I know that Natasha Mayhew from the mayor's office is also here. And I know that our local Board of Elections Director, Armstead Jones, is here. So if you all would like to turn your cameras on at the moment, we will begin starting with Senate Bill 525. What Senate Bill 525 does, colleagues, is it takes a look at enfranchising even more voters in reference to those folks that may be detained at our pretrial facilities. I got to work extensively on this just this current election cycle and making sure that folks in the Baltimore City pretrial was treated exactly as me and you are in reference to receiving their ballots, in reference to receiving their ballot request forms. And there was extensive amount of work that went into this. Also leading on it in 2015 to make sure that we moved the needle for those folks that are on parole or probation, having the right to vote for the first time in 2016. And this just also moves or adds another level to that moment. What we're doing with Senate Bill 525 is just not making sure that the information is administered to those folks that are detained that have the right to vote. They're there because they may be for misdemeanor. They may be there because they can't pay their bail. They may be there, but they haven't been convicted of a felony at the moment. So they do have the right to vote. I would like to lift up that during that time when we were doing the work, it was 700 people at our Baltimore City Central Booking Intake Center that had the right to vote. Our Department of Public Safety puts together a list of the people that have the right to vote, right over, and they end that time. They end that time. I'm gonna put you on mute, Armstead. They end that time and put that list together right around the voting registration deadline. So our Department of Public Safety are doing a number of measures, have guidelines in reference to our state facilities, not our local facilities, but our state facilities in reference to how they are going to operate. I'm also asking that an early voting center be placed inside of this pretrial facility. This has been done only 3 places across the country. It has been done in Cook County in Chicago. It has been done in Los Angeles County in Los Angeles, and has also been done by our next door neighbors in the District of Columbia. I think that this is moving us in the right direction. It would make us a leader and put us on the forefront, which Maryland usually typically is. I would ask that that we give the planning for this by the end of this year, because obviously this would be a task in front of us. I'm currently in conversations with our administration about what this looks like, and look forward to bringing forth some form of amendments to see if there is some form of consensus that can be reached. But I'd just like to take the time out to recognize, if I can, colleagues, Marvin Doc Cheatham. So while I talked about the work that I did in 2015, he was on the forefront in reference to enfranchising those folks with felony convictions long before I could have even thought about it, long before I even joined the legislature. So I'm honored that he is here, but I would like to go to him next and just speak to his support in reference to Senate Bill 525, but why this piece is so important. Thank you, colleagues, for bearing with me.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good morning to all of you. I'm so honored to be in a meeting with y'all. I gotta put this in my diary if I had one. I don't mind telling you, 50 years ago today, I first registered to vote. 20 years ago this month, I introduced the first bill in Annapolis to give former felons the right to vote. We did get passage of a vote of a bill that did pass. But one thing I think Maryland has to understand, I think we need to be excited about us being on the forefront of an issue to give people who have the right to register to vote and to vote the opportunity to vote, and do not disenfranchise them because they're waiting in central booking. Baltimore, whether you're not Baltimore, I'm sorry, Maryland, whether you know it or not, was one of the last states to ratify Blacks getting the right to vote. Blacks were already voting, but Maryland did not ratify it until years afterwards. The same thing for women's right to vote. Women had the right to vote. Maryland had not ratified it until years and years later. This is an opportunity for Maryland to be on the forefront. We can talk about voter suppression. This is one of those issues. These individuals have the right to not only register to vote, but to vote. But if they are incarcerated waiting on trial, they are disenfranchised because we're not giving them a right to vote. So I think this puts us in front of the curve rather than behind it. And it's so ironic that the person I battled in Annapolis 20 years ago, he is now a congressman, and he's catching a little bit of flack from the state of Maryland, and it sounds like my card's about to be fixed.
Thank you, Mr. Cheatham. I would like to move now to Kaylin Young from the ACLU.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of this delegation. My name is Kaylin Young, the Director of Public Policy at the ACLU of Maryland, and we're here in support of Senate Bill 525, which would mandate that we disseminate voter registration information at Baltimore Central Booking, as well as establish an early voting center at Baltimore Central Booking. As the Senator mentioned, they are members of our community who are incarcerated pre-trial and who are incarcerated with misdemeanor convictions and are eligible to vote. And it's incumbent upon us as leadership to ensure that those individuals can get that access. The main thing, though, that the ACLU wants to convey today is that we understand that there is some concerns that you may be hearing momentarily from the city administration with regard to cost and implementation. And we would want to, before you all, when they're also going to be, I don't want to speak for them too quickly, but I understand they're going to be putting in an amendment that might speak to changing this bill to be providing absentee ballots as opposed to the early voting center. I just want to caution against that for this bill, specifically because we have another bill that would allow for that statewide, which is HB 222, the Value My Vote Act. But instead, we would like to offer the amendment of making this a pilot program so that way we can try it out in this first session, in the next election cycle, and work out any kinks, et cetera, and then come back to the legislature to look at feasibility, to look and evaluate whether we can maintain this program and or expand this program statewide. With that, we urge that favorable report with those amendments. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to move to Director Natasha Mehu for Baltimore City.
Good morning, Chair McCray, members of the delegation. Natasha Mayu here to support with amendments Senate Bill 525 on behalf of the Baltimore City Administration. So I do want to share that we strongly do support the goals of this legislation to ensure that those detained at the Baltimore City centralized booking facility have access and opportunity to vote. We do have some concerns with the feasibility of setting up an early voting center at the detention facility, given some operational and fiscal challenges of doing so. So we are offering amendments to strengthen the first part of the bill in regards to providing information, information sharing, and to ensure that we're able to have some of our folks come in, help them register to vote if they're not registered, to provide those absentee ballots, to collect them, to do all we can to ensure that they have that access and opportunity, recognizing that there is some difficulties on our end with the early voting center. I will share that we, as the chair mentioned, we're more than happy to continue to work with him and the other stakeholders to try to address our concerns. And I do have with me Armstead Jones, the director of the Baltimore City Board of Elections, who can talk more to the specifics of how and answer questions in regards to some of those challenges that are presented with a early voting center at the facility. But we support with amendments and look forward to working with everyone.
Director Jones. We gotta get you to unmute, Director Jones. You're.
There you go. Can you
Yes,
hear me
sir.
now?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Good morning, everyone. Of course, I think this is an excellent opportunity for those persons that are incarcerated to have the right to vote. Of course, my major concern is the amount of entities that are involved and that have to come together to put this together. The cost is estimated to be a couple $100,000 to set up an early voting site. And I think that doing it with absentee, we will make arrangements to do the applications, do voter registration, and have those ballots hand delivered to those persons that qualify, let them vote those ballots and return those ballots back to us. And I think it's more cost effective. We want everyone to have the opportunity to vote. One other concern that I do have, doing a pilot program with one of the probably largest facility when you have almost close to 700 people there per day. That is a concern for me, safety for the judges, and then access. During the day, if you run out of certain ballot styles, you have to have them delivered. If you have technical problems, people have to be able to get in. So, and I think the part that I don't know if I would have anything to do with, but maybe input, is the method of how they are coming down to the center and voting and going back. I don't know how all of that would happen. The additional staff I think that they would need in order to make sure security is in place, as well as those that would be escorting persons down. So I'm really concerned, but I really want to move forward with the opportunities for these folk to be able to vote, but in a different manner.
Thank you. Well, I do have questions. I'm going to see if my colleagues have any questions to start. Senator Sidnor, and then Senator Washington.
Thank you. And good morning to everyone. Mr. Jones, I'm just out of curiosity, assuming that the people who are incarcerated, they're not just coming from Baltimore City, uh, with the provision of something like an absentee ballot, would that cover people who are outside of, maybe they're from Baltimore County or some other jurisdiction? How would that address your logistics?
Well, that just adds another piece to the puzzle. That means if they're from County, Anne Arundel County, that means there's another step for us to get that information to them in a timely manner. So that means that somebody will have to uh, transport those absentee applications to that particular county or send it by priority mail. But yeah, that is an issue as well.
And one other question that I had, because I think when you were testifying, you I think said something along the lines of eligible voters. I'm curious, and I'm asking you as our election professional in this hearing. Some of the people that may be incarcerated, if they are in or have been reincarcerated for some sort of a probation violation or something, how can we ensure that them attempting to vote doesn't, is it possible that they could be endangering themselves with a violation of the election law?
Well, what we do is when that application comes in, that application, we research it, see if the person is a registered voter and is already on file, and then we move from there. If they're eligible, then we go ahead and process the application.
But if they registered and maybe they weren't eligible, I'm assuming no one's going to be being charged for trying. That's the concern I have. I just want to make sure they're going to.
Well, normally that's caught in the process, because if you're not in the system, there's some notations in there that tells you what is going on, and then we can look into it and see what's going on. But normally, if you're registered and have been voting or may not have been voting, as long as you're registered in the system, you're good to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Sidnor. Senator Washington.
Senator McCray, thank you for bringing this bill. Very important. I'm happy also to hear that everyone here is amenable or agrees with the concept, and that the opposition is really about looking at some amendments and the ways to make the program work. I just want to start with the easiest thing. Senator McCray, in the uncodified language, you asked for a plan to be submitted from the three entities, the State Board, the local board, and the Department of Corrections, submitting a plan to budget and the House Appropriations Committee. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. And I did, please.
Yeah, I was going to say that additionally, we might want to, the committees of jurisdictions for election policy or ways and means as well. And I know from the appropriations side, I do think budget and tax should be there, et cetera. But I'm thinking about that EHE and ways and means probably would also be a good place to send that plan. And don't know if you're open to that.
No, very, very open. And I think that you make a great point.
Yeah,
I have one question, Senator, if you don't mind.
Yes.
One of the concerns, and of course, with us with costs, in most cases, wherever we go, for instance, we have to pay the overtime for individuals that are working. So if the prison guards have to work overtime, who's going to absorb that cost?
Understood.
Those are the kinds of things that I'm concerned about as well.
Absolutely. And so I was going to ask you, Mr. Armstead, I'm glad you said that. I understand that there's a program that supports, or maybe I guess I should ask, is there a program that sort of supports support at nursing homes or assisted living, where they act as either voting sites or somebody comes in and helps them. Do we have a program like that?
Yeah, we did that up until this year with the pandemic. Of course, we couldn't have people in and out.
Right.
Right.
But you didn't set up, I guess my point is you didn't set up we don't set up a whole early voting center, but if you have 300 residents, 400 residents, you could sort of do lack of a better word, a sort of a pop-up operation.
No, well, what we do is, as I'm explaining, that could be done in this case. The individual goes out with voter registration forms, and they make sure that the residents are registered. Those that are registered, they will get them to fill out the absentee form. And then when the other persons become qualified, they go back. Then the ballots come later. They vote them. The individual goes back and picks them up.
Right. So there's a way to work through it. And I guess I want to check it. Just give me one more, Chairman, if you don't mind. The ACLU, how does this sound to you?
The main thing for us is just making sure that people have that access. And again, for us, it's an all of the above approach. It's making sure that people have absentee ballots where they're available. And then also, if we can do this program, we think that this is, the most easy, maybe not most easy for you all to do, but, most easy for those voters. They can just, whatever the process is, be right there and not have to worry about those concerns that we have about absentee ballots to make sure that, they get mailed, et cetera. And then, of course, the ACLU also has some concerns about mailing within our prisons. And not to say that it's always an issue, but certainly sometimes we run into mail problems. And so particularly for certain inmates. So we just want to raise that up, and this would alleviate that concern potentially.
And so you're asking for a hybrid approach. Pretty much what we've been doing the last two elections is both the opportunity for mail-in, but also an opportunity for in-person. Is that a good characterization?
That's right.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. And I did want to recognize, I believe that Doc Cheatham wanted to comment on some of your questions to Senator Washington. So I just
Absolutely.
Cool. And you just have to take yourself up. There you go, Doc.
Okay. Thanks for this great opportunity. And I think now is a very appropriate time to address an issue that really deals with many communities that I deal with. I am a community president in West Baltimore, and probably the highest populated African-American residential district in the city of Baltimore is what's considered the Western Police District, which does not have an early voting site. In fact, you are disenfranchising actually hundreds of thousands of people who live in Western District because they have no voting site. And I would hope y'all would entertain looking at that possibility. That area, the Madamman area, has probably the highest amount of public transportation of any in the city of Baltimore. The subway system are there. You have 5 major street and roads that are there. And that area, West Baltimore, needs to have an early voting site. And I hope y'all would, at some point, look at this issue, because right now, we consider that a voter suppression issue.
Thank you, Doc. I'm going to, if there are no other further questions from any of the senators, I'll just start a couple questions that I had. Is there any other questions from the senators? Okay. Director Jones, I know that you talked about the cost. Could you talk about how much does a voting machine cost, like in reference to a voting machine in reference to what we're talking about?
In front of me, of course, the state has purchased these machines. And of course, we've had them for at least 4 or 5 elections. I don't have that figure in front of me. I did share a spreadsheet, and I will see that you get that with the cost on it, where it breaks down the cost for election judges, the amount of judges that will be needed, cost for e-poll books, cost for scanners, and of course, the state is in the process now of looking at new e-poll books. The e-poll books are those that that look the individual up when they come in. So it gives a total breakdown. I'll be more than happy to share that
Would you,
total cost with you.
would you know on average how much something like that will cost? You could even go north of what you believe it costs. For one,
No, I don't. I dare not try to guess.
no problem. The second one is, we know that there was on average 700 people that were on Secretary Green's list in the general election that were eligible to vote at that specific facility, this 2020 general election. How many voting machines would you need for 700 people?
Well, of course, basically the main thing now, of course, we use the e-poll book to look the individual up, and of course we use paper ballots. So the important thing is to have enough e-poll books to look individuals up. And of course, I would suspect in a situation in which we are dealing with that's so delicate that we probably would not have a mass amount of individuals in the room at the same time. So I would think between 2 and 3 e-poll books, and then of course the ballot booth for the individual to mark their ballot. One concern, of course, I did not mention is that if we have that election early voting site set up, there has to be verification. How many of the individuals will have a license and that kind of proper ID that will get them cleared enough to vote in person. So that's a major concern as well. But I think with the e-poll book, I think we get around that issue some. The absentee will get around that issue, because if they're not eligible when the form is filled out, we can make sure and document and say certain individual is not eligible to vote. And see, we run into a lot of that. If we have the early voting site, that's going to occur most of the day.
Just to follow up on the response that you just gave, isn't it so that if a person is already registered to vote, that you wouldn't request their license, you will request their address, or you will request their birthday, or you will request information, you wouldn't request a physical ID from that specific person?
Right, but now if they're voting the first time, you request ID.
Got it. Yep, I know that. I just wanted to make sure that the public also knew that. That ends my questioning, but I would ask for that itemized report that you discussed, that you had, so that we will be clear. I did also think that there was an average number in reference to machines. So when we do our voting, I thought that we're basing it off of an average number of folks that are in that specific area that are eligible to vote, is how the machine counts are done. Is that true?
Yeah, so if you break it down that way, you're probably talking about, with 700, you're probably looking at 2 e-poll books, and of course, maybe about 6 voting booths and 1 scanner. So that would probably be where we would be for 700 people.
Thank you. I thought so. I'm going to double see if my colleagues have any questions before we end the bill hearing on Senate Bill 525. Seeing no further questions, I first want to thank everyone that gave testimony, and just acknowledge the commitment that you all have to Baltimore City, but not only to Baltimore City and the state of Maryland, but to just voting in general. And just want to say thank you all for your leadership on that. At this moment, I'd like to end the bill hearing for Senate Bill 525. Colleagues, we have a special treat. We do have 3 pages for Baltimore City during this week. For those folks that are watching live that may not know what a page is, this is where our high schools, our seniors, have the opportunity to join the legislature in one of the respective chambers, whether it's the Senate or the House. At this moment, I think that Senator Washington also has a son that's going to be joining us next week as a page. But our high school seniors have the opportunity to double down and learn about democracy, see it in action. Just like everything else, this is a very unique situation where everything is virtual. But we wanted to, as the delegation, highlight this virtual experience. Malachi, if you could turn your camera at this moment. Malachi is with us, colleagues. We also have Ms. Jones. She's not here at the moment. And we also have Nasir Lee that is also with us this week. But at this moment, colleagues, if you all would oblige, I would just like to ask Malachi Rice just to say hello, but also tell us a little bit about yourself. Malachi, please.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My name is Malachi Rice. I go to the Boys Latin School of Maryland. As Senator McCray said, I am a senior at BL, and I sort of joined in the PAGE program on a whim. I didn't think that I would get in. However, once I got in, I started taking it a bit more seriously because I truly do want to be a part of the region that Maryland continues to thrive and not have to go stagnant. Whether that be through helping the democratic process or just by doing what I do now, which is diversity work, very cool with several different conferences and helping spread awareness to the problems in the African American community, usually through pictures, sometimes again through conferences. So that's a bit about me.
Thank you, Malachi. At this moment, I'd just like to get my colleagues to engage. Is there any encouraging words or anything you'd like to leave Malachi with, colleagues, if you have anything to say?
Well, first of all, thank you so much. And, you know, this is not what any of us signed up for. And we will do our best to make sure this experience is good for you. I believe I'm your senator, and it would be great to have an opportunity to meet with you one-on-one, to talk through the process, maybe follow a bill, but also know that the experiences that you're going through, your class is going to be one of the most innovative, creative, problem-solving oriented group of young people that are going to graduate from Baltimore City area schools in decades. So we really love to have you here and look forward to working with you over the course of the next 75 days.
Thank you.
Senator Ferguson.
Just thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ditto to everything Senator Washington just said. This is going to be an extraordinary year, and while I'm sorry about your senior year being very, very different than most any other senior that has ever come before. It is going to be the resilience that takes you to the next level. So we look forward to ongoing conversations. Wishing you congratulations in your final year here. Do you know where you're going next year, or have you applied?
I'm finishing the application process like right after this.
Excellent. Well, very good. Very good. Get those essays in.
Okay.
And apply for your senator scholarships. Don't forget that if you're going to a Maryland school.
I believe that I have only applied to one out of state school, so I should apply to that.
Yeah. All right. We'll get you.
Any other colleagues would like to join in?
I just want to say welcome, Malachi.
No, I think the same. Thank you for, taking time to join with us this morning. Good luck on your studies. And we're glad to have you a part of the PAGE program. I think that experience is the introduction to how things get done in the state of Maryland. And hopefully, you're paying attention to some of the legislation to see how the decisions that's made here in our state capital affect Marylanders everywhere. And so I know you said you didn't think you were going to get in there. You was reluctant about it, but I think you made the right choice, and you'll be so much more smarter and more prepared than a lot of your peers. So Godspeed.
And Malachi, I can see that Senator Carter threw the thumbs up. And Malachi, as we close, I just want to say that we're all proud of your achievements. We hope that you have an impactful and positive experience as a PAGE with us this session. We recognize that this session is unlike any other but we also hope that you leave here with a greater understanding of how your government works, what your legislative representatives do. And as you prepare to graduate, embark on your new chapter, we just want to wish you much success. Please know that we're always one phone call away, one email away from being able to help. And if you think that there's anything that we are able to do for you to assist you in your academic or professional goals, I hope that you'll never hesitate to reach out, Malachi. I just want to say thank you again for joining us today. And please pass on the message to Ms. Jones and to Mr. Lee, just letting them know that we're very, very proud of them also in the work that they're doing, and just taking the time out to be able to join the PAGE program and let those 11th graders at your school know that they're next up, and we want to see a lot more of them and hope that they can participate too. Thank you again, Malachi. Colleagues.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. At this time, if we could just move on to voting. We're very much running on schedule. Just to remind everybody of the bills that we heard last week. We heard Senate Bill 364, we heard Senate Bill 378, and we heard Senate Bill 396. And at this moment, on Senate Bill 364, which was introduced, I'd just like to see if there is any motions that, sorry, apologies, Senator Hayes, you have a question?
Oh, shoot. I think I raised my hand too prematurely, Mr. Chair. I was going to wait until you got to 378.
Okay. Yes, sir. At this time, I'd like to take a look at Senate Bill 364, Baltimore City civil claims against law enforcement officers of an institution of higher education, prohibition against non-disclosure, provisions and settlement agreements. Is there a motion that could be put forward?
Move favorable.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yep.
Anyone on the question? It's been moved favorable by Senator Ferguson. It's been seconded by Senator Washington. Is there any questions? All those in favor of Senate Bill 364?
Aye.
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 Unopposed? And are there anyone unopposed to Senate Bill 364?
All of us.
Senate Bill 364 will move forward with a letter from our delegation. I'm going to move on to Senate Bill 378, but before we get started, I see that Senator Hayes has his hand raised. Senator Hayes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. The hearing for this bill isn't until February 11th. The Senate President asked me a question last week and encouraged me to follow up with the AG's office. I have not had a chance to get a response from them yet. And so I would respectfully ask that we hold on to this bill until I'm able to get that answer from them.
Yeah, yes, sir. Senate Bill 370.
The Senate President looked like he had something to say. Maybe he.
I apologize. Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I heard back from some other groups that said, and I just put it in the recycling, that said that it was not impacting the cigarette restitution fund. So I think we're fine. So it's up, whatever.
Yeah.
At your pleasure.
No, and I appreciate that. I would want to make sure that we're fine. Because I don't have a hearing until February 11th, we'll be meeting next Friday. I'd just rather be on the safe side because I don't want it to impact other things that we're working on.
Thank you. Senator Hayes is holding Senate Bill 378, colleagues. So at this moment, we'll move on to Senate Bill 396. Senate Bill 396 is Baltimore City alcoholic beverage license hours of sale. Is there a motion for Senate Bill 396?
Move favorable.
Move favorable. Second.
Okay, the bill was moved favorable by Senator Washington. It was second by Senator Jill Carter. Colleagues, all those in favor of, hold on, I apologize. On the question, Senator Nicholas Blendy from the Liquor Board. It looks like you have a question. I see your hand raised, and I know you're here for informational purposes.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Senator. When the cross-file of this bill was heard, I believe the bill sponsor, Delegate Rosenberg, identified a drafting error on the boundary. And I didn't know if the senator had a chance or if the delegate had reached out to his senator to make her aware, because it may not accomplish exactly what I think is intended without an amendment. So I do apologize if I didn't catch you earlier, Senator Carter, but I had thought your colleague might, your delegate might have reached out. But if he did not, I think you might want to check before moving the bill favorable to make sure it does what you think it's going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Blendy. Senator Carter, if you, I just want to put forward that we could move forward, but you always have the opportunity to come back to our respective delegation for the amendment, and we would be able to vote on the respective amendment that you're putting forward, or we could ask our colleagues, figure what posture you would want to have it moved in. We would ask them just to take back the motion that was put forward. So Senator Carter, at this moment, what is your pleasure?
My pleasure would be to move forward, and if we should find that there is an amendment, I'll bring it back to the delegation to consider it. I'm not aware that we have an amendment at this time in the Senate side.
Thank you, Senator Carter. The bill was motioned by Senator Washington. It was seconded by Senator Carter. Colleagues, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Seeing that there are no one in opposition, we will move forward, and Senate Bill 396 passes our delegation. Colleagues, I'm just going to leave this open if there's anything for the good of the delegation at this moment, because we have done our voting, we've had our bill hearing, and we've also met our pages. Is there anyone that just would like to say, and I see two hands raised, Senate President Ferguson, and then we'll move to Senator Hayes.
Senator of the 46th District. Baltimore
Senator
City.
of the 46th District.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just I wanted to pass along, and on the 22nd at the school board meeting, obviously the school reopening issue has been very controversial and challenging. On the 22nd, the school board put forward a presentation about the status of educational outcomes in the city right now. And I just wanted to bring it to the attention, and I'm glad to send the PowerPoint around to folks. But they were sort of presenting the status of students' records so far in this virtual environment. And let me be very clear, despite the unbelievably, heroic efforts of many educators who are trying to figure out how to make this virtual environment work. Right now in the city of Baltimore, 60% of students in grades 6 through 12, 60% are failing one or more courses, which is an increase of 35% over the prior year. I think one of the most troubling numbers that came out from this data review is that almost half of first-time ninth graders right now in city schools have an attendance record of less than 90%, and 61% have a course flag, meaning they have a failure or GPA below 2.0. Almost half of first-time ninth graders. And what we know is that ninth grade year is this critical juncture. And then when you look at GPAs, 49% of ninth graders across the city have a GPA below 1.0. So after a semester of school, nearly 50% of students are with a GPA below 1.0. To catch up after this is an unbelievable amount of work. Obviously, going back has to be done safely, right? That should be a baseline. I think the school system and the state need to do whatever we can to make sure that vaccines are available to teachers. But despite the best efforts, students are really struggling in this virtual environment. And I just wanted to bring it up to the delegation. It is just so concerning about the long-term tail of what's happening over this last year since March, and just something that we're going to have a laser-like focus on, all of us, to see whatever resources and what we can do to make sure that kids get back on track. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator from the 46th Legislative District, Senator Ferguson. Senator Hayes, you had your hand up.
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Chair.
It looks like Senator Hayes had nothing. Are there anything for the good of the delegation for my colleagues before we go into adjournment? Hear no further comments. I just want to take the time out to thank once again every witness that joined us: Director Jones, Director Mehu, Doc Cheatham, Mr. Young from Director over at the ACLU, and Mr. Blendy from our liquor board. I really appreciate the opportunities that you presented to us from an educational standpoint. I just want to encourage the public, please feel free to engage with the Baltimore City Senate delegation on social media. That's Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You may also visit us on the web at bcsdelegation.com. Again, that's bcsdelegation.com. We will be holding our bill hearings every Friday at 9 a.m. During the legislative session, and I hope that we all have a good weekend. Would someone like to put up a motion just in reference to make sure that we can adjourn?
So moved.
Second. This meeting is adjourned at 9:51 a.m. Thank you again.